We are now live.
Okay, Ms. Milan, thank you so much. We are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the May 11, 2021 City Council meeting. And I would like to ask our Madam City Clerk if she can please take roll call.
Mayor Rachel Arizmendi.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Jean Goss.
Here.
Councilmember Edward Garcia.
Present.
Councilmember Kelly Creeds.
Here.
Councilmember Robert Parkhurst.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I'll ask Councilmember Creeds if she can please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and words of inspiration.
Please rise.
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
So for today's inspiration, I wanted to harken back to the weekend celebration of mothers and send a belated happy Mother's Day to all of our Sierra Madre mothers. And wanted to note that motherhood can take many different forms beyond the traditional one. Maybe you celebrated women in your life that aren't technically your biological mom, but provide love and guidance or mentorship and support. Or you may have or be a mom that serves as both parents. Or maybe you're a pet mom or are mothering a new business or other endeavor. Just goes to recognize that sometimes this holiday is difficult for many people, maybe more so this year, given losses that people have suffered, for those who have difficult relationships with their parents or their children, for those who desire parenthood but haven't quite achieved that yet. So I just wanted to be inclusive and remind folks to, as always, to be accommodating and accepting of others' experiences and to be kind to themselves and to others. And on that note, happy Mother's Day to all, and let's begin the meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Creeps. I am a doggy mom. I think that's the correct term. Next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting agenda. Do we have any changes, edits to the agenda? Not? Do I hear a
move
motion?
to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Sorry, we do have to do a roll call vote. Madam City Clerk, can we get a roll call vote on the approval of the meeting agenda? Oh, we're not on Zoom, just there. All in favor? I've got a first and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Next item is approval for reading resolutions and ordinances. A vote of the City Council to read all ordinances and resolutions by title only and waive the reading in full. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously also. Next item is approval of the meeting minutes from April 27. Do we have any changes, edits, corrections, and/or have they already been sent to the Madam City Clerk?
Move to approve.
Madam Mayor, I sent one or two minor things to the clerk, so.
You can make that first, Mayor Pro Tem, with those changes. Great. And do we have a second to approve?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing no, that passes unanimously. Next item is Mayor and City Council reports. Who would like to start with the reporting?
I can go.
Okay. Councilmember Creeps?
So I attended the Friends of the Library event, wine tasting event on Friday, and although we didn't have the best attendance from our local folks, the wine sommelier who led the discussion brought in some of his own fans, so that was nice. And it was just a lovely evening highlighting a woman-owned winery and the winemaker herself, and had a really interesting background, Brazilian by birth, French by wine training, and has a winery here in Northern California. So really just a great evening, and nice to celebrate the friends of the library and support the library. They also had charcuterie and other treats that we could buy from vendors in town. So it was also nice to be able to support our local businesses. I also caught up with the chamber and got a report from their last board meeting that I unfortunately missed. And I'm happy to report that they really have a full calendar through what we hope to have the Wisteria Festival next March and really are planning to come back in full force now that things are starting to open up. They are facing a fair amount of financial difficulty, so they have some things to work out there, but really are planning a lot of events for chamber members, for the city, and really, I think, to raise their profile amongst both the business community and the community at large. So I'm excited for what they have planned going forward and really are looking to increase their membership and get themselves back on track after a pretty disastrous, financially at least, couple of years.
Thank you. I also would like to provide a report.
I'll go, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Parkhurst.
So on Thursday, attended the Planning Commission. The one thing to report back from that is we had one member of the commission ask that the council reconsider changing the commission from 5 to 7 members. And then also last Thursday, I went to the Clean Power Alliance board meeting, and nothing really to report there, just regular operational things. But they're moving forward, and it's pretty exciting to see that continue to grow.
Thank you, Councilmember Parkhurst. Anyone else like to report? Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. No report, and I also do not have a report at this time. So with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is public comment. If anyone would like to comment on any items that are not on the agenda, please make your way to the podium. And if you can please state your name. And we also have a timer that may not be able to be seen from the podium, but it's a 3-minute timer.
Mayor, we can call out at 3 minutes if you'd like.
Thank you.
My name is Karen Rowinski, and I'm actually speaking here for Pat Alcorn, to Mayor Arizmendi and council members. Sorry I couldn't be here tonight because I have 3 things I'd like to address. First, thanks to Rosemary Garcia and Lauren Hines for their efficient and organized COVID vaccine clinics. Appointments, vaccine information, and the actual clinic itself were handled with minimal wait time and no confusion. Love our city staff. Second, thanks to the contractor who replaced the water main on East Grandview. They worked with little disruption of both water access and to the access to our homes. Made sure we had beforehand information, and the workers were very accommodating. Third, I'd like to remind you that at previous city council meetings, you stated you would be revisiting the issue of restoring the planning commission to its original 7 members. I'd also ask you to restore the design review of most applications to the commission. Too many times, certain aspects have been overlooked by staff that should have been reviewed. Granted, the cost of time and money to the applicant is great for it to go to the planning commission for design review, but perhaps costs can be addressed as well. On top of our minds right now is the planning of the 42 home development on the Monastery property. This development needs to be studied with care and expertise. When this project comes before the planning commission, the more professional input, the better to approve or perhaps deny this request for a zoning change. I urge you to reconsider the change and bring the planning commission back to its original 7 members and the design review back to its original level. Thank you, Pat Alcorn.
Thank you, Ms. Rowinski.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Eileen Walker. I live in the 400th block of Ramona Avenue. I was recently shocked and dismayed to see tree removal notices that have been taped to at least 4 of the mature trees on Ramona Avenue, 4 of them in a row. 2/3 of the shade canopy on the south side of the street in the 500th block. So after checking with the city, I was told that the reason for the removal is that curb and gutter improvements need to be made. The notice says new trees will be planted. Curbs and gutters do need repair. But why is it mandatory to destroy mature shade trees to do so? In reviewing some of the information that's on the website, I note that in the past 2 years, the city has removed 83 trees and it has replaced 31 trees. This is a replacement rate of 37%. Climate change awareness has grown over the past several years, and forest management practices have greatly advanced. So I think it's no longer sufficient to think of replacing old trees with new ones. As trees get older, they absorb more carbon every year, and because they are bigger, they store more carbon. Replacement of existing large trees won't make much of a difference in the next 2 or 3 decades because little trees don't store very much carbon. Letting existing natural forests grow is essential to any climate goal that we have. Our existing Sierra Madre Community Forest Management Plan, which was last approved in 2014, barely mentions canopy inventory and was done before climate change really became an issue. I propose that the curb and gutter improvements to be completed on Ramona do so without removal of the trees. I also propose that the Community Forest Management Plan be reviewed and updated to reflect the world that we are now living in. It is naive to think we can replace big mature trees with new ones and get the same benefits, especially when we take out 3 trees for every one that we replace. We are destroying not just the beauty of our homes in Sierra Madre, but also the climate of Los Angeles and the world. I believe we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Mr. Hood.
My glasses are fogging up. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Gary Hood, I live in Cochran Baldwin. And I'm here reviewing something that's going to be coming up and something we've covered in the past quite a bit. The first thing here is a letter from the city attorney addressed to the council and city manager. And what they say here is an executive summary on this memorandum explains the impact of recent changes of the state law on cities' design review process, specifically the Housing Accountability Act and the Housing Crisis Act, the SB 330, reduce the number of housing development projects subject to the existing design review process and limit the city's ability to amend its discretionary design review findings. The Planning Commission's proposed amendments to the design review threshold and city staff proposed amendments to the review authority do not conflict with the HAA or the SB 330. The existing design review standards are lawful, but may, and always like probably legally, if you can throw a but may at the end of it, it opens it up, but may be applied in a way that exposes the city to liability. That's but may. And that's regarding the discretionary design review standards that Sierra Madre has are lawful. With that said, I have a letter here, kind of interesting. This is a letter that was signed and backed. If I can open this up here.
So just Mr. Hood, so you know, you're at a minute left.
A minute left, okay. This is the people that had signed this letter to the council, to the city manager, city attorney, and city inspector. Basically what it was saying, and this problem and the concern that we have in the community is that variances are being granted. And with the change in what is going on with our planning commission, we in the community feel that this is going to continue to go on and that we need to reinstate the planning commission and their standards. And I am just the beginning. There's a lot going on in the community, and it's, as one party mayor said, it could get ugly. And I think that it's important for us to look ahead and try and put the community planning commission back to its original status. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was absolutely perfect timing.
The concern is that
Mr. Iron, can you speak a little closer to the mic? It's hard to hear.
I'm concerned about the yellow blinking lights that we have at crosswalks. The reason I'm concerned about that is it puts the onus completely on the pedestrian. On the side. Make sure you watch before you go out. The problem with that is you can get halfway across and have someone go through. If you make the next step, you'll be on in front of their car going up the road, going up the road. Why can you not put in red blinking lights? Why do you need it? And then it has a stop sign, red blinking lights. What happened there was, in my understanding, many years back, two young people were killed. Well, why can't we put red blinking lights up with these stopping cars? In a normal crosswalk, that's the standard. Stop your car when there's somebody in it. Yellow means at your discretion. Proceed with caution. I'd like to see it switched over to red. Another comment is Chief of Police Corporal Shaw Thrill. Excellent. Glad that you're here. Last but not least, the dog leash requirement in this park is not being heeded. About 20 minutes before you got here, 4 people behind the building, 4 dogs, not on leashes, running around. My question to you is, we only have one sign on the back of the bench for tennis courts. We don't have any around. Signs are a lot cheaper than a lawsuit if somebody gets bit by a dog gets loose and sues the city for not enforcing the police law. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anyone else that would like to speak on any items that are not on the agenda? And as individuals walking up, I just wanted to ask Madam City Clerk Aguilar if we have any public comments that will be that need to be read that were submitted.
No emails were received for items not on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Mayor, council members. My name is Lynn Coleman. I live on Carter Avenue. I'm here tonight, basically in support of those who already spoken about increasing the number of members in the planning commission back to the original number of 7 from 5. And to speak as well about restoring the design review functions. Unfortunately, last year I was only able to attend 2 of the council meetings, one of which was the one on October 27th.
Can you speak a little louder or closer to the mic?
Get close, better? Okay. At the October 27th meeting last year, it was very apparent from the beginning that there was a lot of tension between city council and the planning commission. A number of members of the public got up and spoke about it, as did several planning commission members. Obviously, both of you are very important groups to this city, and it's really critical that there be a good working relationship between both of you. I would like to see that restored, possibly by adding 2 additional members. You can change the composition and maybe have things balance out a little bit better. But I hope this year one of your goals is to establish a strong working relationship with the planning commission. I hope it's one of theirs to establish a strong one with you as well. It's really in the best interest of all the residents of Sierra Madre that we do this. We have a lot of projects coming up this year, including the Monastery, that are going to need a very vibrant, strong, and vital planning commission. So thank you again for listening. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ms. Coleman. And I do want to comment on that is, I think despite some misperceptions, at least from my vantage point, is that we do have a strong working relationship, understanding that there's still people that are advocating for a different composition. From, again, my perspective, there is a strong working relationship. So with that, looks like we do not have any other public comments for items not on the agenda. So we'll move to presentations. And I believe we have Chief Armelin that will be making that presentation on the annual public safety report.
Thought Joe was still there too.
I understand the issues with mic height.
Good afternoon, honorable mayor and council members. Really happy to be here. And excited about getting a chance to tell you about our outstanding department. So we'll go ahead. We'll go to the first slide. So we wanted to give you a glimpse of the size of our department and how we look and the positions we hold. As you can see, there are 21 full-time employees, and we also have a part-time supplemental staff, which currently consists of 6 LAPD part-time officers, 6 reserves, part-time dispatchers, and our awesome volunteers. We are currently considering moving away from the LAPD part-time officer program and looking at trying to get another full-time officer. This would enable us to better backfill as well as provide more around-the-clock coverage in the city. That program was generated, I believe, back when we were seeing vacancies, and it's kind of morphed into something that was not as useful as it was when it started. So it's something that we're going to be entering into and looking at. Next slide. So I'm really happy to tell you that we're doing extremely well in the area of crime. We were down in 2020, 15% overall in crime. And that was a reduction of 105 issues. This is a continuous downward trend. In 2019, we were down 10% as well from the previous year. So while the pandemic probably does have some things to do with the 2020 reduction, it's not just that, it's this incredible department and the men and women that work for you. They're out there ensuring that our community is extremely safe. Next slide. So this rough draft, I don't have the best English for trying, but we wanted to let you know how we live with crime, how we court going off. So the 8 zones that you see are how we broken down the city into zones, and this allows us to pay attention to particular areas where there may be issues. It gives us the ability to direct our resources if we have a problem area, and that includes paying attention to the day and time that issues occur. Next slide. So what we did here is we wanted to give you a peek at basically our highest and our lowest zones. And once again, I want to make sure you understand that we are doing fantastic in our city in relation to crime, and I'll be able to show you that in one of the upcoming slides. But you can probably guess that Zone 4 is our downtown area, and that's basically because the reason it's highest is because that's where our population grows, and folks come in on weekends, different times during the day. We don't have a serious crime problem here, and we don't have a violent crime problem. I'm happy to tell you that in 2020 we had 2 robberies, and both of those involved individuals who came into our area from another city. The suspects, one in fact had to do with a offer-up. I was selling tensions on offer-up and chose Sierra Madre to meet these folks. He didn't even live in our city, and he basically took his shoes from him. We were able to solve that and get the suspects into custody as well. But once again, we don't have a violent crime problem here at all. Next slide. So this is a slide I was telling you about that kind of gives us the ability to show you how we're doing and how we try to pay attention to what's going on. So that circle represents a 2-mile radius from outside the center of the city. And what we want to pay attention to is what crimes occur, not just in our city, but within that 2-mile radius, because crime can be cross borders and cross over borders. So I'd like you to pay attention to the fact that the amount of crime that is down in those lower cities and off to our west. The scale represents some of the crime issues that occurred in comparison between us, Arcadia, Pasadena, and once again, that's only about a mile into Pasadena, so it's not their entire city, nor is it Arcadia's entire city. But I think it shows once again that we're doing extremely well, and it's something that we pay close attention to, understanding that crimes that can occur right outside of our area can possibly come into our area as well. Next slide. Let me tell you a bit about our investigations team. It's headed up by Sergeant Kemp Chapman and Detective Raymond So. As you can see, we have a total of 612 cases, 536 that are closed. And that represents anything. Filing of charges, it can be a case issued in error, where it turns out it wasn't a crime. It can be unfounded, an unfounded issue where we determine a crime did not occur, and a few other things, including DA rejects, which is kind of a major concern for us right now. We're having some issues with the way the new DA is handling issues. I'll just share with you that in all of 2020, we only had 16 cases rejected. For the first 4 months of this year, we've already had 44 cases rejected. And that's due to the DA's position on how he's handling lower level crimes. It's not due to the work that we're doing here. Next slide. So this slide gives you an idea on how we did with citations in 2020. So we definitely went down in citations. I think a big part of that had to do with the fact that it was a pandemic and that there was a lockdown period and that not as many people were out throughout the year. It also had to do with the officers taking the time to try and talk to folks and give them the opportunity to warnings as well. So, and below that are the equipment violations. There was also a slight increase in that. Next slide. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys about our dispatch center. We have outstanding dispatchers, and they're headed up by our service division supervisor, Mrs. Erica De La Cueva. We have 4 full-time and 3 part-time. And they're very important, these ladies, because they absolutely set the first impression of law enforcement. And they get those phone calls from folks, usually when people are not at their best or when they're experiencing some of their worst moments. And we consider that they handled over 31,000 calls, including there was one day when they handled 4,000 calls during the Bobcat fires. You can imagine those were a lot of excited people. But it's so impressive that they can handle that many calls, not one complaint, not one single complaint about how they've done the job. So they are very special. We're trying to sew into them, have other accomplishments, including 22 as training officers. We've also assigned 2 to the Foothill Special Enforcement Team, which is basically SWAT. So they're there to make sure those are as safe as possible. This is going to involve quite a bit of training. We also have one of these ladies who stepped up and decided she wanted to be a grants expert for us. So she went and sought out grant training, and she's now working on trying to find grants for the department. Next slide, please. So this slide is about our training and what we do here to ensure our officers are well trained and performing properly. That's headed up by our training sergeant, Kyle Bailey. And we did quite a bit of training in 2020 because the Post Peace Officer Standards and Training state-run agency, which governs and ensures police agencies are performing properly. Every 2 years, there's a bunch of training that has to be done called perishable skills. And we hit that 2-year mark in 2020. And thankfully, we were able to get all the training done that we needed to. But what we focused on is a train the trainer type of platform, where now, in the past, the department had to send a lot of folks out to other agents, which adds a cost to do that training. And now we've trained several of our folks that can put it on right here inside of our agency, allowing us to cut that cost. I could tell you about all the training, but I think the highlights of, and when you consider what's going on in the world right now, is things like de-escalation and implicit bias training. And I just wanted to let you know we're doing some really good things. In June, we're bringing the cognitive impairment practical application training trailer here. It's going to be here for 16 hours. We're going to invite some of our friends from the San Gabriel agencies. And this is basically centered around mental health and teaching officers and dispatchers how to deal with individuals that are suffering from mental health. It's basically a role-playing scenario where they're dealing with a movie screen and they have the ability to adjust the responses and actions of that person, as well as what type of mental health they may be suffering from. So it's a really good exercise. We're excited about that. And just, I'll point out one other, the Why'd You Stop Me training, which was generated by some Long Beach Police Department officers. And it deals specifically with bias and trying to help officers understand how that works and what it can do to affect the relationship that you develop with an individual that you may have stopped. Next slide. So wanted to take a moment and point out our community outreach. When I got here, I said this is the platform that I really want us to have. And I think we're doing extremely well. I'm really happy to have Community Service Officer Lou Orono's over there somewhere, who is a Sierra Madre resident. And Lou has done a good job in ensuring that we have our active block clubs. This year, we're looking to increase those numbers. We were able to keep them active by Zooming block club meetings. Lou did a good job with that. This year, we also did, 2020, excuse me, we also did our first annual Community Safety Week. I think that was a big success. We're going to do that every year. We did it in lieu of National Night Out, which was canceled. And we had folks like the Department, Fish and Wildlife, Pasadena Humane Society, Sierra Madre Search and Rescue come out and put on presentations and answer questions that the city and community members had. I think there was one, in fact, that was called Living with Bears, where we talked about the bear issues. And we're going to start back up our Coffee with the Chief presentations that we're going to do here in the city. And I'm really, really happy to let you know that in July, we're going to run our first community academy. And I think I've spoken with you before about that's an opportunity for us to bring citizens in and show them everything from how we handle officer complaints and investigations to investigating a crime, as well as give the persons in the academy an opportunity to role play and be the officer and deal with a problem. So I'm hoping that I can get a few council members to come on down and experience that. So that pretty much concludes my presentation. Very excited about being here. This is an incredible city. I feel very lucky to hold this position. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief Armelin. And everyone loves Officer Lou. And I know they love Chief Armelin, but Officer Lou is out there and very visible. See? But I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of the council. I do want you to please thank the department and all of our staff there for this amazing work. Every community would love to be able to say there's a 15% decrease in their crime rate. But on top of that, it's really the proactiveness in terms of the training and the community outreach. So please thank them and thank you for your leadership. I want to open it up to the council, see if there's any questions or comments for the chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
I do have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem Goss,
I
please.
echo Mayor's remarks, Chief. Absolutely proud of work you do as our leader and work of all the men in your
Thank you,
department.
sir.
It's a very proud department.
Thank you.
I was only fantastic report, by the way. My ears perked up when I heard the DA wasn't quite sure what the word is, rejected.
So
46 cases or something. Did I get the number wrong?
I think it was 44 cases so far.
What does that mean?
Through April. So basically, those are cases where we've presented them, we've made an arrest, and we've presented them in order to have charges filed. And it gives, an outcome will come. If it's a serious crime, the person may get jail time. But most of the ones that he's rejecting that affect our city are less serious crimes. But they're the ones that really create issues for us, like vandalism, drunk in public, under the influence of narcotics, trespassing. These are big crimes for us here because we don't have the serious crimes, and being able to deal with those, the broken windows theory, you have to have some effect. So, and a lot of times if they were just filed, it would get the individual help in some scenarios. But that's been his approach. It's been a lot tougher for some other cities like our neighbors next door, Pasadena. They've started filing on their own. So
That up. Just to flesh that out a little bit. So what does that mean if you have somebody, they're not being kept in jail, right? They're out already when the DA makes a decision not to prosecute, right? That's kind of like a plea bargain where they're essentially kicked out without having to spend any time in prison. But in any case, are these people back out in the city with the ability to commit crimes again?
yes, sir.
Are they getting any introduction into any kind of rehabilitation?
That's the problem. Without the DA taking any action, there's nothing that happens. Our job is simply to identify the issue, investigate it, and then arrest if a crime has been committed, and then file it with the district attorney's office. And
my understanding is that there is some pathway for rehabilitation, particularly for the younger accused, but that's not happening yet, or hasn't happened.
Yes, sir. That's the problem. It's not happening at the DA's level, at the courts level. Once they file, it goes to the courts, and that gives the judges the ability and the power to put them into diversion programs, or seek some type of help. And basically, it's stopping with us. We're making the arrest, and they're back out. We've had some recidivism in some cases. I can think of one problem that was really concerning where we had a woman who had a problem with alcohol. Don't quote me, but I believe we arrested her, I want to say 7 or 8 times in a short period, and nothing was done. Even after, I believe my captain contacted the DA and said, hey, we need some help with this. But unfortunately, they were taking no action.
Well, in my opinion, given the DA's posture on this, given that we're not directing them into rehabilitation, that makes your statistics and report look that much more impressive.
Thank you, sir.
Nice work.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Chief Armelin? Seeing none.
Actually, Madam Mayor, I had a couple.
Councilman Parkhurst.
I'll echo the mayor and the mayor pro tem. You're doing a phenomenal job. And I also really did appreciate the Community Safety Week, I did attend that bear training. It was really good, and there was a couple others that were really good. The search and rescue and the others. So thank you for putting that on. I thought that they were well received.
Thank you, sir.
And I also really appreciate your work on the implicit bias training. I think that's really critically important. There are times when you're called out and it's a mental health thing, and those are challenging situations for all people involved. So I appreciate the attention you take to that. That's something that's very important to me.
Thank you, sir.
I did have just a couple of small questions. So on slide 7, you talk about the 612 cases in 2020 and 536 closed. That's a really good number. Can you help educate me on what is it that keeps a case open? Well, what types of things are open, and does that pose you any concern or anything of that nature?
Well, an open case so closed means that it's reached its finality, and that can be a filing, or it could be a DA reject. There's even somewhere we determine, okay, we don't have any more leads, we can't go any further, and the case is closed at some point. So open cases aren't really a concern, because they're only going to remain open as long as we're continuing investigation, or if it's going through the court process. That's what leaves them open. So
thank you. And then just one final question. So in your map, I'm just curious, when you divide up those areas, you've got some of them down the streets. When you're looking at an area, say area 8, is one half of that in 8, and let's say the other half of it in 6, or same with 5 and 6, or 2 and 5, or any of the others? Is that how you do it, or how do you, when you're thinking about that from a statistics perspective, how is that considered?
So I think if I understand your question, sir, so what we do basically is every time a report is taken, one of these numbers is added into what we call the file number, or the tracking number, for lack of a better term. Each case is assigned one, and so that number is placed on that report, and it gives us the ability to track the crimes and identify what areas of the city they occur in. And then that really gives us the ability to do problem-solving policing, where we can look into an area and say, okay, we seem to have a slight rise over here, and then address it in that individual area.
So let me follow up and try to be more specific.
Okay.
So if there was something that happened on the north side of Alegria, is that in area 5? And if it's on the south side of Alegria, is it in area 6?
I apologize. My map is so small, I can't see Alegria.
So just if you look, there's the road that goes between areas 5 and 6.
Mhm.
You've got a nice line drawn there.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious, is that which one, if something happens on the north side of that yellow line, is it in area 5? On the south side, it's in area 6?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's a really in the weeds question, but I'm trying to understand where your statistics come from. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And looks like there are no additional questions. And of course, I'm curious about zones 2 and 5 that are not listed there. So maybe you can let me know what those percentages are later. But
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you, Chief Ermelin, for the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda are action items in the consent calendar. Madam City Clerk Aguilar, you can please share the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are 4 items on this afternoon's consent calendar. Consent item A is consideration of resolution 21-26, approving certain demands. It is recommended that the city council hereby approve the payment of city warrants in the aggregate amount of $268,816.77. Sierra Madre Library warrants in the aggregate amount of $4,506.55, and payroll transfer in the aggregate amount of $348,684.65. Item B is second reading of ordinance 1441. It's the amending of Title 17 zoning of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code to make family daycare homes, modular and manufactured homes, and transitional housing supportive housing a permitted use within all residential zoning districts, to make supportive housing a use by right in multifamily zones, and to amend emergency sheltered parking requirements pursuant to state law. Item C is the professional services agreement for animal shelter and animal control service with the Pasadena Humane Society. And it is recommended that the City Council adopt the professional services agreement with the animal shelter in the amount of $50,149 annually. And item D is consideration of adoption of ordinance 1442, amending Title 6 of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code regarding animal licensing requirements. It is recommended that the City Council introduce and give first reading to ordinance 1442, therein amending Title 2 of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code regulating animals. That concludes the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Do you have any questions for staff on any of the items on consent calendar? Seeing,
Sorry.
Councilmember Creeps, please.
Just one question on item C regarding the Humane Society contract. I wondered if staff could address the alternatives for contracting with the Pasadena Humane Society and why it was chosen to go ahead with the contract with the PHS.
Yes, Councilmember Krebs. We looked at a number of different scenarios, including taking animal services in-house, providing it ourselves, creating a joint powers authority with other cities and taking on animal control, partnering with the county to build a shelter and take on animal control, and contracting with the county for animal control services. The first three proved to be cost prohibitive, and some of them were not feasible with the startup capital to partner with the county. The contract with the county for their very similar services would have been feasible. The contract was about $2,000 more to go with the county, and the location of the Pasadena Humane Society is a little bit more convenient for our residents, but it's a similar drive.
Thank you.
Any other questions on consent? Seeing none, we will open this up for public comment. If you'd like to comment on any item on consent, please make your way to the podium.
Hi, Lynn Coleman. I live in Sierra Madre. Wanted to ask a question about the animal control contract. Would anyone be able to give an overall synopsis of the types of services and the number of calls that Pasadena Humane provides to the city of Sierra Madre, as well as any other additional information that would be helpful? Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Coleman. I'm not sure if it's in this report, but there is definitely a report out on that. And
Mayor, we can have the police department provide that to Ms. Coleman.
great, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to make a comment on any item on the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for discussion and or motion.
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Garcia.
Consent item C, the contract with Pasadena Humane Society. I have a couple comments regarding section 2, specifically 2.1. So it reads, the city shall pay Pasadena Humane $4,179.06 each month beginning July 1st, 2021 for fiscal year 2021-2022 with a consumer price index and then parentheses Los Angeles Riverside Orange County, California escalator for the following 4 years. Okay. And then it says it shall not exceed 3% on an annual basis, which is fair. First of all, before I get into the minutia of my comment, I just want to congratulate staff on renegotiating the amount that we're paying on an annual basis. Save the taxpayer and residents a lot of money by doing that. But here's my comment, and maybe there needs to be a little bit tweaking of the language on this comment if council agrees. First of all, there's a couple different consumer price indices. It's kind of wonky and minutia, but we have the CPIU, which is all urban consumers, and the CPIW, which is urban wage earners and clerical workers. They tend to be very close, but not always the same. So I think when we have language regarding data, the data should be accurate. So we want to know if it's a CPI, just a normal CPI, which is a CPIU, or sometimes a CPIW is used. So we want to make sure we have an understanding of that. Next, regarding the consumer price index, another important factor is the when. It's not there. Are we looking at annual consumer price index? Are we looking at the last 12 months from when this the escalator is? I think that's an important distinction. We want to make sure we don't have any ambiguity there. And then I guess finally, the Los Angeles, Riverside, and Orange County index has not been an index that has been kept since 2017. It doesn't exist anymore. Probably the proper index that we want to look at is Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim. That's the one that currently exists. It has been amended since 2017 to the present for our locality. So again, Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim, because Los Angeles, Riverside, Orange County does not exist anymore. I think that's it. We want to make sure that we don't have ambiguity, so there's no confusion when we do get an escalator and we know which data to look at. Thank you.
City Manager England, do you have any details on that or any background or specifics as Councilmember Garcia had spelled out?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. This contract, one of the issues with the contract with the Pasadena Humane Society is they provide services for 8 cities, of which Sierra Madre is one. And they had 8 separate contracts with eight separate requirements and 8 separate administrative reporting duties. So what we tried to do was create one standard contract for all 8 cities. And the specific details on compensation in 2.1 were proposed and reviewed by the Pasadena City Attorney's Office. So any changes we make tonight will need to be approved by the other 7 city councils if we deviate from the form, as well as PHS itself. So it makes change a little bit difficult. Having said that, Sierra Madre was the lead agency on the contract and from the subgroup, and we're going first. So any changes we make tonight, we have a chance to not have to come back and adopt it again. So on the actual Los Angeles, Riverside, Orange County, California, we can make that change. They update reporting areas at times. We have them in our MOUs and they can be updated. So we can update this language now, but if it changes in the future, we wouldn't specifically be tied to the one that's in here. It'd be the one that would be relevant. We can also make it more clear that it's a backwards looking CPI to June of the year the contract starts and then trails 1 year after that. So we can provide language on that as well. And of all the different CPIs there are, this is not my favorite CPI, but it was also not something that I wanted to take up our time because it's likely to be a small difference. So we would just have this be the normal CPI for Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim. And we'll clarify that other language. And if that's acceptable to council as we go first, I don't think we'll need the other cities to negotiate.
Yeah, I think for all parties, it would be a good clarification for both the Humane Society and the municipalities that are part of this contract.
And City Manager England, just in terms of logistically how this looks, is if we propose these changes now and it's approved by our city council, you would share this language with the other 7 cities as to how it was approved with Sierra Madre?
That's correct. And then the other 7 cities, their city manager will determine if it needs to run back through their legal or not, or if they can bring it to their council. And then I'm assuming those city managers will have the same conversations about any changes we make have to be made 8 times. So there's a lot of things in here that if it was just us, I think we would change, and I think we'd be more clear on, but we're also trying to incorporate the comments and desires of several other entities and organizations.
And hypothetically, if I see it's a June 30th expiration date on the existing contract or agreement, if the 7 cities are unable to make these changes within that time, what would the option be? Is there an extension option of the existing agreement?
We're, Mayor, we're currently in the 1-year extension option from the 5-year agreement that expired. So my guess is the Humane Society would take that on a case-by-case basis. I mean, council approves this, and we will be part of a 5-year contract with Pasadena Humane Society, regardless if one of the other cities declines to approve it. So approving this, we would be approved and in the contract regardless of what happens with the other cities. My guess is some of the cities are going to go right to the deadline, and I'm not sure how PHS will handle it.
And just to also clarify, we would not be extending our $75,000 contract. It would be based on the amount identified in this agreement.
So it's a little bit of speculation, but the last time we had to extend an agreement with the Pasadena Humane Society was 2014, and we did have to pay additional fees for services provided out of contract in addition to our base contract that year. So they do have, at least in the past, if it's not a signed extension and agreement, they've applied penalties to the contract. But to answer your first question, it would be it's actually a little cheaper than the current rate this year if we sign it.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. All right, any other comments on the consent calendar on this item or any other item? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion for approval. I will look at you, Councilmember Garcia, if there's an approval you would like with a recommended change.
Yes, I move to approve the consent calendar with the recommendations regarding clarification on the consumer price index escalator for our fee.
Do you have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, further deliberation on any of the consent items? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote on that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing none opposed or abstentions, the motion carries unanimously. And the last item on our agenda is discussion, and it's City Council discussion on California Senate Bill 612. Management Analyst Carlson, I believe you'll be presenting on this item.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. The only discussion item on tonight's agenda is the consideration of providing a letter to regional elected officials on Senator Portentino's SB 612. This topic was originally suggested by Councilmember Parkhurst. Council received a presentation from Clean Power Alliance Executive Director Ted Bardacchi at its last meeting, and this is the 3rd time SB 612 is before you. Staff is also aware of some public comment that will be provided by our city clerk for this item today, and staff will be prepared to take any direction provided by the City Council.
Thank you, Analyst Carlson. Before we go into public comment, which I know we do have some that were written in, do we have any questions on this item? We're all experts now that it's come up 3 times. Okay, seeing none, I do want to make sure we're opening it up to public comment for those that are attending before we read public comments. So if there's anybody that would like to comment on Senate Bill 612, please make your way to the podium. Okay, seeing none, I will ask Madam City Clerk if she can read into the record the public comments that came in via email, please.
that Southern California Edison respectfully opposes SB 612, which would interfere with extensive regulatory proceedings and harm utility customers by making certain revisions to the California Public Utility Commission's CPUC ongoing consideration of the structure of the Power Charge Indifference Adjustment, PCIA, and legacy resources. This bill conflicts with the joint proposal submitted by the bill sponsor and SCE to the CPUC, which would undermine the extensive regulatory efforts on this issue and is premature as the CPUC has just issued a proposed decision on the issue. SB 612 undermines ongoing proceedings at the CPUC. Community choice aggregators, CCAs, and electric service providers, ESPs, will soon account for more than half of the CPUC's jurisdictional load, and according to the CPUC, up to 85% of the load by the mid-2020s. The state must be mindful of the comprehensive efforts undertaken by the CPUC to consider the PCIA structure to align with market changes and ensure appropriate customer protections, regardless of which load serving entity, LSC, customers take service from. Through coordinated efforts involving experts at the CPUC, utilities, CCAs, and other LSEs, among several other stakeholders, the CPUC's ongoing proceedings already consider these and several other complex factors to determine the PCIA structure. With these issues in mind, in 2017, the CPUC opened a proceeding divided into multiple phases to consider the PCIA structure and ensure equity across all LSE customers. As part of Phase 2, SCE and Cal CCA, the bill sponsor, served as two of the co-leads for Working Group 3, which involved nearly a year of thorough discussions over key issues involving the PCIA. The co-leads submitted a consensus proposal of 300 plus pages in February 2020, which the CPUC just issued a proposed decision for. While the group reaches consensus on most of the issues it was tasked with, there are other non-consensus items that require consideration and resolution by the CPUC. The proposal provided thoughtful, reasonable, and workable compromises to several PCIA-related issues, including customer protections and cost allocation for legacy resources.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I gave you a little bit time on that because I know it took us some time to get started, but I think we have another comment.
We do. The second comment was emailed today by CPA Executive Director Ted Berdacki. And his email is a response to Southern California Edison SB 612 opposed letter. SB 612 undermines ongoing proceedings at the CPUC. Community choice aggregators, CCAs, and electric service providers, ESPs, will soon account for more than half of the CPUC's jurisdictional load, and according to the CPUC, up to 85% of the load by the mid-2020s. The state must be mindful of the complex, comprehensive efforts undertaken by the CPUC to consider the PCIA structure to align with market changes and ensure appropriate customer protections, regardless of which load serving entity, LSE, customers take service from. Through coordinated efforts involving experts at the CPUC, utilities, CCAs, and other LSEs, among several other stakeholders, the CPUC's ongoing proceedings already consider these and several other complex factors to determine the PCIA structure. With these issues in mind, in 2017, the CPUC opened a proceeding divided into multiple phases to consider the PCIA structure and ensure equity among all LSE customers. As part of Phase 2, SCE and Cal CCA, the bill sponsor, served as two of the co-leads for Working Group 3, which involved nearly a year of thorough discussions over key issues involving the PCIA. The co-leads submitted a consensual proposal of 300 plus pages in February 2020, which the CPUC is expected to decide on in the coming months. While the group reached consensus on most of the issues it was tasked with, there were other non-consensus items that require consideration and resolution by the CPUC. The proposal provided thoughtful, reasonable, and workable compromises to several PCIA-related issues, including customer protections and cost allocation for legacy resources and portfolio optimization. Rather than allow this process to conclude, following years of consideration, this bill attempts to circumvent the working group's efforts and eliminate the CPUC's discretion and expertise on this issue. SCE's criticism is opportunistic. While SCE is correct that the Commission has actively engaged in implementing the power charge and difference adjustment, the legislature has addressed several high-level principles and in fact detailed rate-making principles carried into the Commission's implementation. Examples of these statutory provisions, which SCE has supported, if not initiated, include that was time.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Okay, we'll bring this back for question. Oh, no, that we just opened it up for public comment. So we're here at discussion and wanted to open it up. And again, I know we've had this in front of us a few times and in different manners, but I want to give us the opportunity to discuss further. And I actually will ask Councilman Parkhurst if he wants to jump in, given this was an item that he wanted to bring for discussion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as you heard from both of those, this is a really complex and wonky topic. So let me try to distill it down to something pretty simple. We're not getting what we pay for. That's what it comes down to. And in particular, we're not getting the greenhouse gas benefits that we're paying through this fee called the PCIA, the Power Charge and Difference Agreement. So there are contracts being purchased that we don't get the benefits of. One of the reasons the CPUC sat on this for a year, they kind of like the IOUs over us cities that are buying our power. And so we as a city, we're being harmed. Our customers are being harmed by something that the CPUC and Edison didn't do. It's convenient that that there is a proposed decision coming out of the CPUC. It came out after the bill was issued. And so I think that that's something to take in mind on this. There's some things in here that aren't accurate. We can dig into the details of it, but one of the things that I wanted to highlight is that Edison claims that there are things that were already ruled against and considered in this matter, and actually that's wrong. Some of the things in here that haven't been decided were delayed, and in fact, Commissioner Reshoffton, I think that's pronounced right. He wanted to get some stuff resolved, and he made it clear when he voted in the previous proceedings that it was going to be a topic of future discussions. So, I think that if this bill has gotten a good response because it's getting people to take action on it. And I asked my fellow council members to support the letter to help keep that pressure on for us to get what all of us are paying for as residents for our energy in Sierra Madre.
Thank you,
Madam
Councilmember Creeps.
I guess part of my concern is that I like the idea, obviously, of having equitable allocation of benefits. It just seems very theoretical to me, and it's not clear what the actual benefit to the specific, utility user in our city would be under this bill, other than just, like I said, sort of broad language about equitable treatment. Is it a rate decrease? Is it some other, better delivery, less reduction in services during peak times? I mean, it's just not clear to me what the actual benefit translates to on the ground. I don't know. anybody has any
And
answer to that.
I appreciate you articulating that, Councilmember Krebs, that is one of my concerns, as well as when this was presented, it was stated that Edison is neutral on this issue. And I see that this letter is dated April 19. And I don't know, Councilmember Parkhurst, if you have some of the answers to what Councilmember Krebs had articulated. And if you do, please.
Sure. So basically, it is, we're buying more renewable power as a city. So by getting the greenhouse gas benefits that we've already paid for, we have to buy less renewable power for our residents that are at 100% or 50% or 33%. So from that standpoint, it's a cost savings. It also has benefits for the hard to purchase power in that peak time period. So, as the sun goes off as it is today, we need to have reliable resources to make sure that our microphones are on and the camera is on and our lights are on. And that we are paying for, but we don't get any benefit from. Edison's taking all of those benefits. I can't comment on why we weren't told about the letter at our last council meeting. That came as a bit of a surprise to me when I saw this come in. But I think the fundamentals are, the benefits we get is it prevents us from spending more money for two real benefits. It is renewable energy that we've paid for and energy in peak times, which is really expensive.
Your comments, discussion on this,
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Garcia?
Yeah, so I always want to tread lightly when we're talking about Senate bills or Assembly bills, because the beauty of this local government and the five of us sitting up here and the people that vote us in, that we have very different viewpoints, probably at the state level and the federal level. And I want to tread lightly if we're supporting a bill at the state level for that purpose. But given that we could potentially save our residents some money or get what we're paying for, that's a thing that's good. So I really have the bigger issue with this EPUC dragging their feet on this. I haven't seen the language of the Senate bill. I don't know exactly what's in the Senate bill. I definitely support the sentiment of the Senate bill personally for our community, right? The problem with utilities, they are kind of like insurance, right? We have commissions that get involved in an open market, and that creates distortions in the market. And we know that, but we need these regulations because these utilities could have monopoly power, and these regulations or regulators will have the best interest of the consumer in mind. So that being said, Bardaki did give some good answers to me regarding the legacy infrastructure that this is supporting, and he also said, yeah, we should pay for what we bought, right? So that's a good thing. So I want to make sure that the letter is written well, but I want to make sure we are not supporting a bill that has something in it that I don't agree with without seeing the language of the bill. Not that our Senator Portentino would do anything like that. He's been a very good advocate for the city of Sierra Madre. So if it's completely focused on the PCIA issue regarding some of these costs, I just want to make sure that the PUC is doing their job, that the commission's doing their job, they get it together. And, I'm in favor of audits, making sure that the investor-owned utilities aren't passing along litigation costs to us. We don't know what are in these PCIAs. So I'm more of the mind that we write a strongly worded letter to the commission rather than currently support the bill.
Thank you, Councilmember Garcia. And, and I'll just share too is, as we've talked through this a few times, the question came up is what exactly is the language in the bill? And we were going to wait for the language of the bill to come out. What's the direct benefit or loss of residents in the city? And I know historically when we've taken a position on a state legislation proposed bill, it's because there was a direct loss or benefit to the residents. And I'll share, after receiving the Edison letter today and the rebuttal also from CPA, my preference is to take a neutral stance and no position. But understanding that this is coming up to council for a vote, I will vote accordingly if and when the vote comes up to support.
Well, let me just weigh in real briefly. I was one of the strong supporters of getting our Clean Power Alliance set up here in the city, and I'm very proud of the fact that our city's doing that. And I think it's a benefit to our citizens, and I think the feedback we've got so far has been very positive. So in that sense, I'm always trying to build on success, and I think trying to hash out exactly what the benefits to our residents are here is I'm still not seeing it. I'm not seeing anything specific. Because if I saw a number, a percentage, if I could see something here, I think maybe it would be worth taking the time to stick our necks out, because on state legislation, I think both my colleagues who've spoken on this are correct. It's a dicey thing to support state or federal legislation when we're trying to keep the lid on that conflict that can arise from that politically. Local politicians, our job is sidewalks and sewers and little league fields and police departments. And when we escalate up to the next level, we risk tearing ourselves apart. So it seems I don't see a compelling reason to support 612. I'd like to get a rebuttal. I'd like to hear from Councilmember Parkhurst before I make a final call on this. But I do like Councilmember Garcia's idea of possibly a strongly worded letter to the commission. I think that actually might have more weight. But I would like to get take one final stab at it. Can we get some kind of something tangible that we could say, hey, to our residents, this is why we voted for this?
Well, I appreciate
I
that.
hate to put you on the spot, Robert.
No. This is what we're here for, and this is the type of dialogue that we need to have. So I appreciate it and welcome it. I think it would make it easier, Mayor Pro Tem, to have the actual numbers. And unfortunately, I don't have those on me tonight. So I think that does make this more complicated. I think that right now, the proposed decision that the CPUC has actually doesn't give us these renewable energy and resource adequacy, peak time benefits. And that's what worries me about it, is that if we do nothing, we actually lose out on benefits that we're already paying for. I hear you that we need to tread very lightly in getting involved at things above the local level. But to me, this is the local level. We're one of 31 cities that is purchasing energy for our residents. We have stepped forward, took a bold action. You took a bold action, which I really applaud, to have us buy this energy. And having reliability of our energy is critically important. We saw what happened in Texas with the lack of planning, with the lack of regulation, with the lack of infrastructure. So regardless of what happens today, I ask my fellow council members to think about how we can get smarter about this and have the right level of engagement. And I don't have an answer of what that is, but we have taken this bold step to get better energy, get cleaner energy, get local jobs. And if we're going to stay in this and we're going to be serious about it, I think we need to defend it when it comes under question and attack. And I think that that's the part to me that is clear based on the information that's in front of us today. The response from the Clean Power Alliance, the information that we've heard from CPA Executive Director Bardaki, that these are things that actually start to chip away at what we agreed to and what we set out for as an organization with CPA. And that's what worries me, is that if we lose this, we start losing something else. And so the question is, at what point do we get to a point where, they don't want this, we'll take this little piece and that little piece, and now we've got a Texas-style disaster on our hands in the future. So that's what keeps me up at night in this. I know that doesn't fully answer your question, but hopefully that'll give you some of my insight and kind of why this is important to me and why I have worked to bring it forward.
Well, can I respond? You were pivotal in us getting this done. You were a pivotal player working with our staff and working with Councilmember Harabedian. And so I respect what you're having to say, that your concerns to me, I don't just brush them off. It's probably valid. But in the future, when I'm trying to defend a vote like this, for whatever reasons, because we're now taking on Edison, I like to have something, tangible, point specific. You hear what everyone else is.
So Councilmember Parker, want to make sure I understand. So currently, are we receiving no benefit? Let's say there's a big demand on the renewable grid. Let's say it's during the day or even in the evening. We get no benefit from other sources of energy, and there's a potential that we could have a brownout or blackout in town because of this. Or I just want to make sure I understand what we're asking.
Certainly. So we have to. The good thing about California, we've had problems. We had problems back last August. It's an evolving grid. We were at 95% renewable for 2 seconds on April something or other last month. I mean, that's huge that we can get there. Thankfully, we're having to buy these things regardless. So it kind of comes down to we're paying twice, but we're going to have it, and we're going to have to continue to make sure that we have it. And will this lead to a brownout? Will this lead to something else like August? Where's my magic 8 ball? I don't know. I can't tell you for certain. But what I can tell you is that we've got to, just as we look at the financial stability of the city, we've got to look at the financial stability of the Clean Power Alliance. And this, it starts to, it's small, but it starts to eat away at that financial stability because they're having to buy more. At the board meeting that I was just at last week, there are three buckets of when we buy renewable energy. There's 21 to 24, 25 to 28, and 28 to 30, something like that in those. The second bucket out there past in 2025 and beyond, we're great. In 2021 to 2024, we're short. We're not buying the renewable energy that we have. And so thankfully we've got 12 contracts in the pipeline. Hopefully those will come true. Those will come to fruition. We'll be able to sign them. But if they don't, every megawatt hour is going to be a megawatt hour that we're going to have to find somewhere else. So, that's why it's kind of, if we don't get it here, we've got to go get it somewhere else.
Okay. Any other comments? I just wanted to state thank you, Councilmember Parkhurst, for bringing this item. I think, if anything, I find it extremely educational. And as I have not been as involved in CPA, and thank you again for your representation there, I think it's important information to have. I will say again, I'm not convinced that it's a bill to support. I'm not opposed to it, but I also still feel very strongly about a neutral position or no position at all. But with that, I would be happy to entertain a motion. No other comments.
So my comment is to Councilman Parkhurst, and I echo the sentiments of Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you. So we're tasked with giving the staff direction and kind of given, I think you can get the temperature of how we're feeling. Maybe you could recommend direction to the staff and we can discuss that.
So what I'm thinking, based on the thoughtful dialogue here today, is not to bring forward a motion to endorse this bill. what I do think, and I want to put some thought into this. I don't want to have something really quick. What I will commit to is to think about and discuss with staff how to figure out the right place for us to get involved. My firm belief is that we've taken on this new adventure. We're going to have to somehow get to the right level. And this stuff is, really detailed and really acronym heavy and wonky and complicated. And having been a utility employee, I still don't understand a whole lot of it. There's people that spend their whole life that just focus on, and there's one guy I know who spent his whole career focused on a law from 1979. And that just shocked me. So I'm not going to bring anything forward yet, but I want to work with staff to bring it back, to continue these dialogues, to help us along on this, to make sure that we're getting clean, local, reliable energy and low cost energy for citizens of Sierra Madre. And that's my commitment here today.
Thank you. And I think you would see commitment from the rest of the council on those issues also. But I just want to make sure I open the opportunity for any motions, although I know Councilmember Parkhurst already stated, but I just want to make sure with other members. Okay, seeing none, thank you for that discussion. I think, again, it was educational, and I think there's so much more to learn. And I'm interested in seeing if there's an opportunity as a city as to what action we can take to support the efforts of the CPA. Okay.
Thank you for bringing it forward, and thank you all for the discussion today. I sincerely appreciate it.
Great, thank you. And seeing we come to the end of our agenda, are there any action items that the council would like to bring forward for further discussion at a future meeting? Aside from Councilmember Parkhurst. Okay, seeing none, it looks like we will adjourn, and thank you so much everyone for attending. And our next meeting will take place on May 25, and the expectation is that it will be here at Memorial Park, and hopefully we'll have information as to when we can open up in chambers. So thank you so much.